Good evening. What a beautiful day. Last couple of days have been beautiful. Welcome to Wednesday night Bible study at the Little White Church by the beach. And this is the last Wednesday night of April, right?
Yes.
May Day. Friday is the first day of May.
Yeah.
Okay, so long for April, and we're
Sorry, guys.
yeah. Enjoying the spring-like weather, which means I've been in the garden. Yeah, I have stuff growing. Some stuff undercover, some in the little greenhouse, and the stuff that can tolerate cold weather is doing quite all right outside. So it's just, I enjoy seeing almost daily, you can see the growth of stuff, especially when it's got some, the weather has got some warmth to it. You know. So we're in the book of Genesis tonight. We're on chapter 4, so we just really be getting started. The book of beginnings. The first chapter of Genesis in 660 words describes the first 6 days of creation. And usually it's like two things that are mentioned. Chapter 2 gives us the specific accounts of the creation of Adam and Eve, following the general announcement about man being created in the image of God, male and female. God created them. Then we have creation of Adam, creation of Eve, on the side of Adam, chapter 2. And chapter 3, last week, describes the messed up world we're now living in, how it got that way, because it wasn't that way in the original creation. Everything that God created was very good. So people say, well, where did evil come from? How did evil enter creation? Well, God created man in his image. One of the things that meant is man has the ability to choose. And the first parents, Adam and Eve, they were told not to eat of that one tree. And what did they do? They broke God's commandment, and they did that. And as a result, they sinned. They got kicked out of the Garden of Eden. And now today we're going to see in chapter 4 the consequence. The first consequence, really, we're going to see some consequences. Not the first consequences, because there were some consequences to Adam and Eve, also to the serpent, as a result of chapter 3. But we're going to see some further consequence of the fall, manifested in the first murder in the Bible. The first murder in the Bible. Cain slaying his brother Abel. Let us open with prayer. Lord God, we thank you for a beautiful day, the last couple of days especially. We thank you for the opportunity to gather in fellowship and around your word. We look for the Holy Spirit to enlighten our hearts and minds to the truth of what we're discussing tonight. Guide our discussion. Give us a deeper, fuller understanding of your word. And we'll be careful to give you thanks for this in Christ's name. Amen. So as you can see, Mr. Ron has returned. And brought with him calorie-free dessert. Anything consumed here on Wednesday night or Sunday morning is calorie-free. Yeah. And Lisa got some goodies over there. So those of you at home, you're missing out on this. You can follow along, but you're missing out on this. So we have some other chairs. You can join us in another week. But hopefully you got maybe your beverage of choice and something else to snack on. And you're joining us in Genesis chapter 4, Cain and Abel. So, verse 1, it says, Adam lay with his wife Eve. She became pregnant and gave birth to Cain. And she said, with the help of the Lord, I have brought forth a man. And later she gave birth to his brother Abel. So you have different translations here tonight. Any other word, verbiage for the first part of verse 1, describing Adam and Eve and their relation?
Yeah, Adam knew his wife.
Knew his wife. Yes. Anybody else have that as a word?
I'm the same as you.
The man was intimate with his wife.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the word "knew" is is to know, and intimacy. You obviously, men and women get to know each other in a more fully way, and so that's a kind of an appropriate word to describe human physical or sexual relations.
I have one that said had relations with, and another one said made love to.
Made love to. Okay.
And good news says intercourse.
Intercourse. All right. She became pregnant.
Yep.
Now, I wonder what she was thinking, and her stomach started to get extended. You have no reference. People today have some kind of reference. But eventually, after 9 months, she delivered this child, and she says, with the help of the Lord, I have brought forth a man. And Cain, by the way, anybody have any study Bible notes about what the word name Cain means? It's sort of in the category of acquiring.
I don't have any words on that, but I know of a Jewish man who, and he's Christian too, and he, like it says, she says, I had a male child with the Lord's help, and then right away she says she also gave birth to his brother Abel. And, you're not in verse 2, are you?
Not yet.
I'm
But
sorry.
Verse
I apologize.
1 and 2.
Well-
Abel, the word Abel, the name for Abel means temporary, and that's kind of appropriate because his life was kind of cut short. And for Cain, when she said, with the help of the Lord, I brought forth a man, so yes, she acquired a child. Yeah, so the names are kind of indicative of that.
This man felt that they were twins. That's how he interpreted it.
He thought that they were twins.
Yeah. And I mean, in my version, it just says she also gave birth to his brother Abel. It doesn't say, later or anything, but.
And,
So,
even
that's
with
how he
twins,
saw it.
even with twins, the oldest one always knows that they're the oldest one. And they never let the youngest one forget that. I'm 5 minutes older than you. Whatever. So, but I'm not aware of anything that
I'm just.
indicates
That's
that
what he.
twins.
That's how he felt. So.
Yeah.
I'm not aware of anything.
Mine says then she bore again.
Mine has later. But
Mine
again,
says-
it is.
5 minutes later.
Later,
That's what I was. Yeah,
verse 2 does say later, but later could be 5 minutes.
Exactly. Yes.
And mine
Yeah.
mine just says she also gave birth to his brother Abel, and it doesn't say Adam was intimate again.
So,
Whatever.
how voluminous would the Bible be if it had all these details?
Yeah.
Two.
So there's a lot of things you got to kind of like read between the lines. It gives us enough information for us to know that Adam and Eve. Now we have Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel.
And Mary Ann Nolan's version said he knew his wife. Just FYI.
He knew his wife, and
Yes.
yes, like that word "know" is really indicative of in relations of very fully knowing somebody. Okay, in the biblical sense of the word, right? Understand what that meant. Now it says something about Kathy. Read verse 3 to verse 5 about these two boys.
In the course of time, Cain brought some of the fruits of the soil
as an offering to the Lord. 4. But Abel brought fat portions from some of the firstborn of his flock. The Lord looked with favor on Abel and on his offerings. 5. But Cain and his offerings he did not look with favor. So Cain was very angry and his face was downcast.
So we have the birth of Cain and Abel and these offerings that Cain and Abel brought. Now, some years obviously had to pass. They were probably young men at some point in time at this. So how old would they have been? 18, 20, something like that. And it tells us, it kind of like, you remember the story about Jacob and Esau? They were two quite different. It's interesting how you can have the same parents and you can even somewhat look alike, but you can be kind of different in your interests and your abilities, whatever else. You have siblings? You have siblings. Peter, you have siblings?
Yep.
Ron, did you have siblings?
Yep.
Gary, did you have siblings?
3 sisters.
3 sisters. You're the only boy, the prince.
That was the uh-oh.
Yeah, Dave's siblings, I know you got a brother.
One of each.
One of each?
One of each.
One of each?
One sister.
One sister.
Mhm.
No boys, huh?
No.
There was 3 boys and 1 sister. My parents also lost a sister, a daughter, at a very early age. So there was
Yeah.
4 of us.
Same with mine.
I was fortunate. I had 2 older brothers that were always, they were 8 and 11 years older than me. Always looked up to them very much. They were quite different. But one was very generous and one was kind of had a nickname, Scotty. Anyway, my sister was between me and them. And we always had a kind of close relationship. She was somebody that I could confide in and talk to. And when she was driving, she drove me places. So, but here we got 2 boys, Cain and Abel. And this is what it says about Abel. He was a keeper of flocks. Cain worked the soil. You remember one of the things that is said about Adam is you're going to, the sweat of your brow, you're going to take care of the ground and what comes out of the ground. And so Cain was following his father in that way, but Abel was a keeper of the flocks. It says Abel brought fat portions from some of the firstborn of his flock. And the Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offering. But Cain, his offering, did not look with favor. He did not look with favor. So the whole thing about bringing an offering, where do you think that idea, where did that idea come from? Did God tell them to do that? In the heathen world, in anthropology, just about any groups of people you talk about, the witness of nature indicates that there's a creator, and so you have people recognizing that and attempting to appease the creator, to have some relationship with the creator, whatever else. But it doesn't really say here what prompted them to bring an offering. Did God reveal something to them, or did they just kind of, from nature, realize that there had to be a creator and maybe they ought to, have some offerings to that creator?
Well, God obviously sacrificed animals to make clothing for Adam and Eve, for their coverings.
And so how does that apply to this?
Yeah.
Well,
That he was clothing them.
sure, but
So he had to kill the animals.
Right.
To get the skin from the animals to make them clothing.
Right.
But this is different here about an offering.
Yes, but the offering that was accepted was a blood sacrifice, and the offering that was rejected was not a blood sacrifice. Now I realize the text doesn't
For him to
Spell it out.
offer fat portions, obviously he had to slay the animal.
Well, Jesus was there right from the beginning. That's what it was all about. The blood sacrifice from when he clothed Adam and Eve. And now with this, I
The
think.
shedding
I
of
think
blood,
So, yeah.
which we see later was part of the sacrificial system in Judaism.
And in Hebrews it says, without the shedding of blood, there's no remission for sin.
But there's no indication that God directed
No, there's
anything about the offerings.
No, there isn't.
I mean, you have to wonder if there's just something in nature, innate in us, because if you look at heathen tribes out in the middle of nowhere, they still have sacrifices to their gods.
Yeah.
So
In recognition of a creator. And
Right.
looking to
appease
or make some overture towards that.
But God was not happy with Cain's sacrifice, and he rejected Cain because of it.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the sacrifice that he did accept. It
Yes.
says Abel brought fat portions. You know, in steaks, when you got the marble effect in steaks, the fat is where the flavor, what brings the flavor. Now, I know that Angus, what's the difference between Angus and Herefords? Angus has less fat in its meat, and some people like that. If you ever ate venison, there's like no fat, very lean meat.
In fact, if they made venison hamburger, they had fat.
So the fat portions, but what else does it say? From the firstborn of his flock.
It's
The
not.
firstborn. What does that suggest?
Well, that was the firstborn, but he was for purity and blessing and all of that. But my interpretation of it, mine has best parts of the animal, but the way he words the harvest, he doesn't say it's the best. He says some of the harvest, which to me was in a reference that it was a poor grade.
Mhm.
And again, they know well, I guess talking that way and giving your best, that's what he should have gave as his offering. But he,
So beside the idea that he had to obviously kill the animal,
Yeah.
that he brought the best,
the best
portions
parts of it,
of
yeah.
the firstborn.
Yes.
And when you read in the Hebrews Hall of Faith, Hall of Fame, it says that Abel brought it in faith also. So Abel's heart also had faith. I know it doesn't say that here, but
So now, on the other hand, Cain, he was working the soil. I'm a descendant of 300 years of farmers, vegetable farmers. So I can identify with that part of it. But it would never occur to me that, my offerings are that I share from what I produce and give to people. And I encourage people, you want to get really good results, give away some. And it seems like the Lord makes the tomatoes and whatever else produce more. But that's my offering, so giving it away, but not giving it to God, but giving away to somebody that can enjoy it. So he brought that, no doubt, had some pride that he was going to bring when he grew. Doesn't say he brought in tomatoes, number ones did not have any kind of crack. At the most they could have was like a 1/4 inch crack. Number twos had a little crack on them or something like that. So we were always looking to the stuff we sold wholesale. You wanted number ones. You're the best. Okay, certain size. I'm happy to say, by the way, I won the blue ribbon for the state of Pennsylvania at the Pennsylvania Farm Show for sweet potatoes.
Yeah, they taste
I got
great.
the blue ribbon and the Pennsylvania sweet potatoes. We had a portion of our farm that had very sandy soil, and it was really conducive for growing sweet potatoes. And the skin was no blemishes on the skin, and they were nice plump. And that, so I got the blue ribbon. The last time I saw that blue ribbon, it was purple. It changed colors on that.
And you were how old when you got your blue ribbon?
17.
17.
Yeah, I remember us planning. My dad would make a hill with the tractor, and my job is to go along and lay down the sprouts. Okay, my mother came along with a trowel. My father came along with a watering can, and I remember doing that. Anyway, back to farming. So the result was that one sacrifice was accepted, one was not. The brothers who sacrificed Cain, he wasn't too happy with this, was he?
It sounds like Cain's offering was kind of unremarkable.
Say that again?
His offering was unremarkable.
It
It
was.
was just any old.
How do you guys?
I don't see it distinguished. It says he brought some of the fruits of the soil. In other translations,
Where with Abel, he brought the fat portions of the
of the
firstborn.
first fruit. So it's the best of the first, whereas Cain's was just some of.
So
So he didn't mean much to him.
well,
You got something
whatever.
to
We
say,
know
or you
that
want
his sacrifice. Yes, Gary.
Oh, okay. I have a pretty good footnote here. It says, but at no point does the Bible suggest that offerings work automatically as if the worshiper's faith and contrition did not matter. And Cain's fundamentally bad heart can be seen in his resentment toward his brother and in his uncooperative answers to God in the rest of the passage.
Well, he certainly his reaction was not good. He was very angry, and his face was downcast. And your face you look at people, and you can kind of gather what's going on. It shows you in your face, does it not?
It does.
They say the eyes are the window of the soul, but your face. You can read people on that. If I'm tired, people say, you don't look tired, as you're not too happy, your face doesn't look as well. Everybody looks better with a smile. But he obviously had a frown. He was not happy. Very angry. Anybody say anything besides very angry? How angry was he?
His countenance fell.
His countenance fell, downcast.
Mine says Cain was furious and he looked despondent.
He was furious and he looked despondent. Little resentment there between the siblings.
Well, so far it's toward God, right?
But he was upset that he's upset with God, but he was upset that his brothers, he was upset that his brother's sacrifice was obviously accepted and his wasn't.
Maybe he brought a bunch of number 3 tomatoes.
Yeah. All right, Peter, read verse 6 and 7. God's warning to Cain. Verse 6 and 7.
Verse 6. Then the Lord said to Cain, why are you angry? And why has your countenance fallen? 7. If you do well, will not your countenance be lifted up? And if you do not do well, sin is crouching at the door, and its desire is for you, but you must master it.
So insightful words here. So when God says to him, why are you angry? Did God not know? What was he doing? Asking that question. He's attempting to draw him out, right? It's kind of like in the garden when God said, Adam, where are you? And they were hiding over there in the bushes. God knew where they were at. He was drawing them out. And so here he is engaging Cain. And why is your face downcast? God knew. Because he knows can read people's hearts and minds. And then he says this, if you do what is right, so this indicates to me that they must have been given some instruction. They must have been given something, Adam and Eve were told not to eat of that one tree, they could eat all the rest of them. So what was said before that God would then say to him, if you do what is right? So that to me indicates that there must have been some other some communication there. Because how would you know what was right or what was wrong if you weren't told?
Right.
The Amplified Bible kind of backs that up. It says, if you do well, believing me and doing what is acceptable and pleasing to me, will you not be accepted? So how would he know if it's acceptable to God unless God said this is what's acceptable?
Yeah. So I'm reading between the lines, reading between the lines to think that there was some communication there. But if you do what is right, you're going to be accepted. But if you don't do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. That the devil goes about looking to who he can devour. Here it says sin is crouching at the door.
To me, where he says, won't you be accepted? It's all about each of them before God. It's all about them and their heart before God. That's because it's not like God has favorites. If each one of them has the opportunity to be accepted 100%, and God's given him that opportunity, and he's given him a second chance.
So there's this warning. Sin is crouching at the door, desiring to have you.
That's the other side of it.
So there's a warning. Right. There's a warning.
Yeah.
But you must master it. Does anybody have any other verbiage there around its desire to have you and you must master it?
Wants to rule. Rule over you.
One at a time. What's it, Ron?
To rule over you.
Rule over you.
Rule over it.
Rule over it.
Rule over it. You must rule over it.
Yeah. So there's a book. John Steinbeck. Ever heard of John Steinbeck?
Yes.
The book East of Eden. East of Eden. Where does that language come from? Well, talking about gotten kicked out of the Garden of Eden, right? East of Eden. And he thought, by the way, that this was his finest work, East of Eden. I want to read something from Dennis Prager, a person of faith in the Jewish tradition that had something to say about the verbiage here about, but you must master it. Just a minute. Okay. The statement, yet you can be its master, is one of the Torah's most important statements, the Torah, the scriptures. It means we have a moral free will, that we can rule over our desire to do wrong, is the most empowering idea of life, that we can rule over the desire to do wrong is an empowering idea of life. The only way we can end up doing bad behavior, actions that are either destructive to others or to ourselves, is to first recognize that we can be its master. We have free choice. We can be its master. If we regard ourselves as incapable of controlling ourselves, when I get angry, I just can't control my temper. Well, we never will, if we think that way. One might say self-control is the most important achievement we can attain. That many parents work hard to instill self-esteem and self-control in their children is a moral tragedy. And ironically, no self-esteem can equal the self-esteem that derives from self-control. The power of words, you can rule over it. The power of the words, you can rule over it, is a subject of the most remarkable and unexpected passages in modern literature. takes place in the middle of John Steinbeck's East of Eden, the novel which the Nobel Prize winning Steinbeck regarded as his greatest literary achievement. Set in California in the early 20th century, East of Eden tells the story of two families whose generations unwittingly reenact the story of Adam and Eve's fall and the rivalry of Cain and Abel. Central character in the novel is Lee, a Chinese-American man who learned the biblical story of Cain and Abel from a Christian friend, and he became obsessed with it. What exactly, he wanted to know, did God say to Cain about his ability to overcome his evil desires? What exactly, he wanted to know, did God say to Cain about his ability to overcome his evil desires? Not knowing Hebrew, Lee consulted the King James Version of the Bible. If thou dost well, sin, if thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door. This is the King James language, all right? And unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. Lee understood that God promised Cain that he would conquer sin, or he could conquer sin. But then Lee consulted the American Standard Bible. Peter, you got American Standard. Yeah. The new writer, which rendered the last words differently. But do thou rule over it. But do thou rule over it. According to this translation, these words are not a promise from God, but an order from God to rule over sin. An order to God to rule over sin. But thou rule over it. Wanting to know which of these translations was correct, Lee went to the wisest Chinese elders in San Francisco, who then, along with Lee, spent 2 years studying Hebrew, hiring a rabbi to teach them so they could properly understand this story that they regarded as containing so much wisdom and truth. After 2 years, Lee explained, as Chinese American, we felt that we could approach the 16th verse of chapter 4 of Genesis. They concluded that the word God said to Cain, which means may rule, thou mayest rule over sin. When a listener asked Lee, why is this word Timshol so important? He responded that whereas the King James Version promised that man may triumph over sin, the American Standard Translation orders man to triumph over sin. The Hebrew text says, thou mayest. Thou mayest. You following along?
Mm-hmm.
In other words, the Bible is teaching that human beings have a choice. And the choice is, in John Steinbeck's words, put words in Lee's mouth, what distinguishes man from animals? A cat has no choice. A bee must make honey. These verses in history of humankind in any age or culture or race indicates this. This one word and its meaning are so sufficient to Steinbeck that the final word spoken in the 600-page novel is the Hebrew word Timshol. Timshol. And what does that mean? It means thou mayest. You can control this. And so the challenge is, are we going to do that, or are we going to have it take over us? We're responsible to God for our actions. Yes.
To me, if we turn away from God, because God gave that Cain a second chance. Don't you know you'll be accepted if you do what's right?
Yeah.
So he had a second chance. And that was his opportunity to do what was right. But if he turned away from that, then he was positioning himself very poorly to be able to overcome sin. Because then he was, in a sense, open to me, it made him vulnerable to Satan's attack.
So God is warning him about sin crouching at the door, desiring to have him, telling him, but you must master it. Does anybody, the last words of verse 7.
You must overcome it.
You must overcome it.
It's like he said, master it that's what's on us. The Standard Bible, American Standard.
Mine says rule over it.
I have 4 translations here. 2 say rule over, 2 say master.
So it's indicating we have responsibility. And Cain had responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Ron, go ahead and read what took place next.
Number 8.
Number 8.
Then Cain said to his brother Abel, let's go out into the field. When they were out in the fields, Cain turned on his brother and killed him. 9. The Lord asked Cain, where is your brother Abel? He answered, I don't know. Am I supposed to take care of my brother? 10. You want me to continue?
Go ahead and read on through verse 12.
10. Oh, okay. 10 is, then the Lord said, what have you done, this terrible thing? Your brother's blood is crying out to me from the ground, like a voice calling for revenge. 11. You are placed under a curse and can no longer found the soil. It has soaked up your brother's blood, and it has opened up its mouth to receive it when you killed him. 12. If you try to grow crops, the soil will not produce anything. You will be a homeless wanderer on the earth.
So after God gave him a warning, what did Cain do? He says to his brother, let's go out into the field. And so, how could you describe that?
Well, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, Cain blew God off. God gave him a second chance.
Exactly. Right. Yeah.
And he blows right by the chance, doesn't do a thing. It's same.
You think he knew what he was going to do when he said, let's go out into the field?
Probably, yes.
Yeah.
But that he was then on his free will of not what God's saying, but that's what we gotta in all of our lives at all of the time be aware of ourselves.
So the intent when he said, let's go out into the field.
His intent, well, yes, was there.
And exactly how he killed his brother. Did he have a tool that he used with the cultivation of the soil? Did he pick up a rock? It doesn't say how did he do it. Was strangled, killed him with his hands? It doesn't really say how he killed his brother. But he killed his brother.
Yeah. Then the first murder wasn't against some
And
enemy. It was
apparently
his
it
own
was
brother.
a bloody affair as well. From what is said next here.
Pastor,
Yeah.
you know, we tend to feel like we hear these horrible things, children, abused and all the awful stuff you can hear. But this was the first murder in the Bible, in the world. I mean, it's been bad for a long time.
So we had a situation in Washington on Saturday night where an individual attempted to kill people. That's what he said in his manifesto. And this person, they claim at one point in time was a Christian. I can't judge from that, but I'm just saying some people who knew him when he was in college, he identified as a Christian. So something happened to him where he's planning to go kill people, and he says, even if somebody attempts to stop me, I'm going to kill them. So you say, what goes through people's minds to think that you're going to go kill somebody? That's premeditation, right? It's not that somebody, in the course of an argument, we talked about that husband and wife recently where the guy killed his wife who was a pastor, and it turned out it was part of just an argument that went way out of control. But there was planning and deliberate planning. When he said to his brother, let's go out in the field, he had some idea what he was going to do when he got in the field. He wasn't just go out there and show him the crops. And when he got there, he killed his brother. And God says to him then, where is your brother? And how does he respond?
I don't know.
Yeah.
You.
I don't
Your
know.
book doesn't have the famous verse. Am I? I really. That's kind of mean to take that away.
So, do you think at this point in time he buried his brother?
Yeah. Am I my brother's keeper? That's what you've always heard. And
When God says to him, where's your brother? Where was his brother?
They made up a new.
Yes. Yeah. Well,
Oh, he was definitely on the ground.
Yeah. And so he says, I don't know. Well, that's obviously a lie. Right? He knew.
You've heard that a million
So now
times. You know.
Now he's not only a murderer, he's a liar. What do we know about the devil? He's a liar and a murderer. Right?
Yeah.
And then he says, am I my brother's keeper? He's talking to God.
Yeah.
He's talking to God. He says, am I my brother's
I
keeper?
think it's probably a big comedy.
He has no.
line.
He
too.
doesn't appear to have any fear of God. You know, he doesn't have any respect, really, for God.
He's talking to God. Yeah, God knows all. But the Lord says, what have you done? Listen, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. So that indicates to me there was how he slew his brother involved blood being shed. You are now under a curse and driven from the ground, which opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you work the ground, it will no longer yield the crops for you. And that's what he had done before. He was, I think, quite proud of that. He offered that offering to God. You will be a restless wanderer on the earth. So, in other words, he was able to grow crops before and feed himself and others maybe from that. That wasn't going to work anymore. So he was going to have to he was going to have to go around and just gather whatever he could gather.
Isn't he kind of a vagabond?
Well, anybody have another word for wanderer? The last part of verse 12. You will be a restless wanderer on the earth.
Homeless.
Fugitive.
Fugitive and a vagabond.
Vagabond. What does a vagabond mean?
You just have no roots. You have
Wander.
no connection. You're aimless. Your life. It's a horrible thing. Who are you? What are you? Where are you? You're nowhere, really.
Okay.
It's not good.
So, Gary, you read last?
No. Gary's next.
Gary's next. Okay. Verse 13 to 15, Gary.
13. Cain said to the Lord, my punishment is greater than I can bear. 14. Behold, you have driven me today away from the ground, and from your face I shall be hidden. I shall be a fugitive and a wanderer on the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me. 15. Then the Lord said to him, not so. If anyone kills Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And the Lord put a mark on Cain, lest anyone who found him should attack him.
Go ahead, read verse 16 too.
16. Then Cain went away from the presence of the Lord and settled in the land of Nod, east of Eden.
East of Eden. Okay, so what do we find here in verse 13 to 15? Cain is complaining about the severity of God's judgment. Really. After he murdered his brother, God didn't kill him. We're going to talk about capital punishment a little bit later in the book, chapter 9. But God did not kill Cain. What he did do was
Give him mercy.
cause him his crops not to produce anymore, and he became a wanderer, a vagabond, as we said here, and he was going to have to wander around. Says, today you are driving me from the land, and I will be hidden from your presence. I will be a restless wonder on the earth. And then he said, whoever finds me will kill me. Who was he thinking was going to find him? At this point, it was Cain and Abel.
Well, that's
Touche.
we're getting-
Well, we don't know that necessarily.